This is Rocky Hall with the Lassen County Oath Keepers, California. And I'm going to be conducting an interview here with Tom and Chris. And Tom is a local rancher, and Chris is the retired fire chief
Yes.
of Burns, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're going to start with Chris. Chris, go ahead and we're going to start with Tom, and Tom, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tom Davis, and we raise saddle broncs and bareback broncs for the rodeo industry. And the pest here is Vegas. Not that wants to get in the show. There he goes. Anyways, nice to meet y'all.
So we're here today to get your story. I met you today out at the Refuge when we were picking up some vehicles, and you were out there as well helping some people get their stuff back. Wherever you want to start, as far back as you want to go with the B.L.M, Burns, Oregon, where do you want to start?
This whole thing started with the Hammonds. Actually, it goes further back than that, but let's go with the more recent. It was Hammonds. And
How far back does it go? It's pretty deep here.
It goes way back. It goes back to the floods and back to the government takeover, getting control of that refuge and taking lands from the bottom, the ranchers in that country, and creating a non-sustainable area where the wildlife doesn't even, they hardly have the wildlife numbers they used to have because the area is not a productive area. It's so overgrown that it's a wildfire hazard to begin with.
I was actually told that by a local rancher that is fifth generation in this area. He was saying that the wildlife isn't there as well,
No.
so that's been verified.
It was kind of funny. They used to put out a brochure up into the 90s. They stopped putting it out when it hit 2000. They used to say the best viewing of the wildlife was at nearby ranches. And that,
Yes.
To go to see the wildlife. Because the birds, the geese, the wildlife likes that fresh green growth. And when you got such an overkill of growth, wolfy material there, they're not having no food. And there's too much coverage, so the predation is hard on them. So they stay out away from that area because what duck wants to build a nest where the predation is going to hit them pretty hard. Predation being raccoons, predators like raccoons, cats, cougars, we call them cats, or bobcats, or coyotes.
So the local wildlife has been hugely affected
Oh yeah.
by what they've done out at the refuge. Can you tell me what they've done? You were telling me earlier today, or excuse me, it was yesterday, about the island.
Oh,
They're trying to play God and they're not God. That's for
that was my son.
to decide.
Anyways, the brilliance of the government is to build an island that's cost $1.5 million on antiquity lands, that's Native American artifacts, burial grounds and that, out on the lake. They built this massive island to introduce a bird from Portland that they're capturing called a tern and bringing them down here, trying to build a colony of terns they figure is going to eat the carp, but the terns are about like the homing pigeons, they're going back home. They head back to Portland where they come from. And so it's just stupidity of the government trying to create introduce another species into this area
That's not native to
that's
here.
not native. And they've roads and material and everything from the different areas, bringing rock in that's not native to that specific area, building this island out in the middle of Melhir Lake that cost the American taxpayers $1.5 million for a tern, a bird that they figure is going to stay here. That's already showing that they're going back home to Portland to eat the salmon. And they don't want carp, they want salmon. I don't blame them. and it's just the stupidity of the government.
What's your involvement with the refuge out there? We kind of touched on it a little bit yesterday. You want to go ahead and tell us how you got involved?
I got involved when I went down there to the refuge. Me and my son went down there to see what was going on. Figured a good civic lesson to see. You've seen the occupation of Burns. You've seen the occupation of our airport, where you went to the towards the front end of the gate, and if you crossed the line, then you were met at gunpoint with weapons pointed at you, with weapons out behind, 7, 8 guys with weapons ready to kill you for crossing the zone. Hostility
On public land.
on public lands. Same with the courthouse there in Harney County. So we went down to Refuge, and we were met with handshakes, friendly attitude, people that was great. They kept the Refuge cleaned and that.
You're talking about the occupiers.
About the Bundys that was at the Refuge. It wasn't occupied. The Refuge was open. The doors were unlocked in the buildings. This the people don't know. When they approached the Refuge and took over the Refuge, the doors were unlocked.
That's
The
'cause it's a
federal
public
government,
building.
the federal government went through the Refuge, and already there was papers scattered everywhere, as if they were searching for stuff to get stuff out of there. And when they took over, they walked in the doors. They were open. It's public building, public lands. Like, oh, I take that back. Now the feds are saying it's federal buildings, federal lands. What is it? Does it belong to we the people, or does it belong to the B.L.M. Inc., the Refuge Inc., and all this here incorporated United States government? It belongs to we the people of the Constitution of 1778, not the Constitution of United States of America Inc. that was formed in 1868. Check that out. Check the difference out. The first is the Constitution of the land. Constitution of the land stands for good for the people. The second 1868 Constitution stands for nautical law, marine law, which is the Constitution of the sea, which is evil constitution, evil laws. And they all go back to the Jamaica, the B.L.M. Inc., and all these. Just track it down. Track the incorporated down. It goes to the incorporation of
Are you
Indies
telling the
Treaties.
American people to educate themselves?
Educate themselves. It goes back to the West Indies treaties, which goes back from Jamaica to Rothschilds, which goes back to the British Crown. Wake up, people of the United States. In Canada, we have a term for public lands. It's called Crown land. United States so-called public land is Crown land. It's owned by the British Crown. The whole B.L.M. United States Inc. goes back to West Indies Treaty Company, which is the law that was formed in 14th century, and it goes back to the Crown of Britain. This is the law they don't teach you Americans in your schools. And the Canadians still admit to it. It's owned by the Crown. All the public land is owned by the Crown. So your lands are not owned. All the money that comes from our land and our so-called resources all goes back to the Crown. So that's just a fact, people. It's a proven fact.
So when you went down to the Refuge and you just drove in and were met with handshakes by the Bundys and the people that were down there with the Bundys.
Yeah.
And did you meet Mr. LaVoy when you were down there?
Not the first time. The second time we did.
Second time.
So you were just coming and going?
Yeah. Just everybody was.
Yeah.
Everybody. It was a welcome hospitality. Even the protesters, the granola crunchers, they were allowed down there. The paid protesters and the FBI, the FBI that was dressed up as civilians were even down there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
everybody's
they
down
were
there.
spotted pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their mentality is just a tad bit different.
And so we had coffee down there. Me and Hunter and a friend of his, we had coffee with the people and talked to them. They invited us to supper, but we done ate, so we weren't hungry. But we had coffee and visited, and just found out what they were standing for.
Right.
And unfortunately for the government, what they stand for is exactly my belief, that we're not against the government. People, we were not, the Bundys, they are not against the government. We are for a government that is true to the Constitution, a government that is right, and not the corrupt government we have nowadays. Those politicians, those fat cats in Washington, D.C., that all they worry about is patting their pocket and paying for all these donations. You figure that these companies and corporations give these people goes to one thing, for a little bit of, okay, you'll see it my way, you do me this little favor here, or this little favor there. And then they vote laws against the people that will benefit them. That is Peter DeFazio. Check out Peter DeFazio, Congressman of the 4th District out of Medford. He came out against the Bundys, calling for a swift and immediate takedown of the Bundys, and then go down to Nevada and take care of the Bundy, take care of the virus stomp on their throats, show the militia, this is what happens for you. Why? Because all his investors that invest in his campaign all are private donors to big businesses like mining corporations, unions, building mining equipment, all this. Everything goes back to mining. Why is he so worried about the mining industry in Harney County? We have a uranium resource here. We have strychnine. We have cinnabar. We have all this gold, flour gold. And these corporations want to come in here and rape and destroy this county. Talk to the Sioux Indians in South Dakota and in Nebraska and find out what happens when uranium is opened up and destroys the
So this is
topsoil
pretty much a
water.
repeat story of what's going on in Texas, Oklahoma, the Bundy Ranch, everything.
Yes.
So you're telling me that these militia, these government takeover, hostile Bundy people met you with handshakes and offered you to dinner. I'm gonna put my 2 cents worth in on that one because we were classified as radicals and a threat, and I want to touch on the amount of law enforcement, military guns that were here because we were so dangerous.
The only danger, the only threat that was actually here was to threaten and intimidate the people of the county of Harney and to show the American people this is what will happen to you. They had 4 people down there. They were compromised, and I'm kind of thinking that maybe they were working with the FBI, and it was to draw Clyde and Bundy into the state of Oregon, so that Multnomah County, the socialist county of Multnomah, and those socialist judges could bring them into their kangaroo court. And that's what they did. They got on there. They did that video of screaming, "Oh, help us! Help us! We're being overrun. Burns is on lockdown." I went through Burns, and the federal people were still at the federal compounds. Federal people were still in the motels. Nobody was excited. This was 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And they were taking it over at 5 o'clock that morning. Those guys would have been down there. They'd have been on top alert, but there was nothing. The guards, there was just 2 guards out of the post and that marching around the post with their M16 and machine guns and their pistols on their side. But there was.
You're talking about the military?
I'm talking about not the military, the mercs and all these people that brought here. They weren't military. These were government contractors that was contracted by a government. You call them Velcro patches or what? They put on patches for every agency they work for, from one of the alphabet B.L.M. to whichever alphabet agency they are working for.
I saw a lot without name tags, patches, no markings, no identification as to who they were, and they would not tell you who they worked for. They would not tell anybody who they worked for. They were just heavily armed.
Yeah, I went and approached them, and 2 of the guys. This was down at the airport. One of the kids got in touch with me. "Tom, I'm going down to the airport to tell the feds to go home. We don't want them." So I said, "Well, you ain't going by yourself." So I ran down there, contacted several people, and there was about 30 of us showed up down there. And I approached the guards there. And there was 2 guards, and there was 8 guys standing off in the distance with their long rifles watching us. And I asked them, "Are you here to insult and take over Harney County?" They go, "We can't answer that." I said, "Are you here to intimidate Harney County?" "We can't answer that." "Are you here to kill people in Harney County?" "We can't answer that." I said, "Then who in the hell can answer the question?" "Well, you got to call this number." So we called that number. We got the same runaround. Same BS. Nobody had the true answer. Because that they're hiding. Whenever somebody does not answer a question truthfully and smile at you at the same time, they're a liar. And every one of these idiots were liars.
So when you went down there, you met the Bundys.
Second time.
You met Mr. Finicum. What was your impression?
Was you down there on that ranch?
With his girls, with his daughters.
That's my son. Anyways, what happened, we went down there, and they had the rancher signing ceremony down there. And we were standing there, and I was over here in Pete Santilli calling out 2 FBI agents that was down there as, "This is you on this picture. That is you," and call them out. And those guys were
Calling them out, saying they were undercover.
FBI.
They were undercover FBI
Yeah.
down at the Refuge.
Yeah, at the area where, oh my God, they were dangerous, and everybody's there. And there was 2 granola crunchers there that these FBI agents were protected. one a tall, lengthy gal, another little short gal. And there's a video out of those girls protesting on the bridge at the Narrows. One, the little short gal's wearing an eagle hat on her, and the taller, skinnier granola cruncher by the name of Kate is packing a fake stuffed raven that she calls a crow. Learn the difference between a crow and a raven, Kate, before you make the classification. And they're down there telling our land, our land, our land. So I approached her, and I said, "Excuse me, can we talk about this?" And they started screaming at me, "Our land." And I told the short little fatter one, I said, "Be quiet, we're having a discussion here." And she shut up for a minute, we're talking. And I said, "It's our land, is true. But you don't do nothing to benefit Harney County to help us pay for the road grading for all you tourists to come out here. You don't provide no financial assistance to Harney County." And she goes, "Well, the government does. The government does." I said, "No, the government does. The government gives us 25% of the tax base of that taxable property. If they gave us 100%, our schools would be better, our infrastructure of our cities and our county would be better, our hospitals would be better, our libraries would be better. Our county would benefit if we was paid 100% of that tax worth of that property. But they give us 25%. So we go in a deficit because of this." And she goes, "Oh, I hate cows." And I said, looked at her and I kind of laughed and I says, "Excuse me, you got boots on. That rubber is made with cow byproduct. You got leather on. That comes from cows." And then she started, "You guys kill coyotes. And that you're killers of coyotes. You kill coyotes." I said, "Excuse me, you're wearing coyote fringe on your boots. You're wearing nylon from the cow byproduct. You got lipstick from the cow byproduct. You got polyester on. Got wool from sheep on your neck." And I just started pointing out her hypocrisy of her.
You think she was bought and paid for?
Oh yeah, she was paid for. They're paid for protesters. Every one of those protesters down there was paid for by the federal government. And LaVoy came over and thought there was an argument going on there. Not LaVoy, I mean Hammond came over and thought there was an argument going on and put his hand on my shoulder and listened for a sec. Said, "Oh, he's got under control," and walked away. And I said, the people like you I have a problem with. If you believe so much that agriculture, ranching, farming is so negative and so deadly to the environment, I ask every one of you hypocrites to do me one favor. If you think logging, mining, everything is so bad, don't eat, don't wear clothes, and don't take baths, don't do nothing. Go out in the middle of a field and stand there. And when you die, I can walk over to your bleached out bones and say, "There's somebody who died for their cause. Otherwise, you're all a bunch of hypocrites that's out for the money."
You should really tell me what you really feel.
Oh, don't get me there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
But
sorry.
then we met. Then and I got
here all night.
after she was screaming and I calling, yelling. I told that little fatter gal to shut up twice. And then I was a feminist. I hate women and all this because I told her to shut up. And but you can't have a debate when there was somebody screaming at you.
No, you
No.
can't. I'm gonna touch on what was going on at the refuge as well. So I met you today. Do you want to kind of skip forward as to what you were doing down there today and how you were helping?
I was contacted by several people to grab their vehicles. I was given power of attorney from those people and their attorneys to pick up their vehicles. And Lisa Bundy came up and asked me if I could help her. And of course I ain't going to say no to,
No.
To me,
Yeah.
all you kids are like family. And I will help out any way I can. Government might hate me for it, I don't care. And sorry government, but we don't have the big paychecks you do. We don't raise taxes to keep spending all these millions of dollars on nothing. So I was down there helping out you kids and giving you a hand. I think Chris can agree with me there.
Yep.
And somebody calls us, we're there to help people. And that's our nature.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
I find that with a lot of the ranchers. What do you think is the biggest divide in this county between what has happened?
The biggest divide's always been here. I don't know where these people come up with this utopian love fest that they say we had. Sorry, we don't jump in each other's bed and have love with each other. There's been a divide. There's been government workers in the city of Burns that vote all the time against the ranchers out in the country. anybody that's been here long enough can remember the fights in the Grange Hall between the Cranites and the Burnites.
Oh yeah.
There's always that divide between the city people of Burns and the rural people. The rural people that is the salt of the land that sweats their butts off to make a pay. That ain't being paid exorbitant wages from the government to fight the ranchers and destroy the ranchers.
What do you think, Chris?
How am I supposed to say anything after that?
I'm sorry.
No, it's ridiculous, and I think one of the biggest problems that we face is ignorance.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's ignorance.
And that's why I want to get
right
your
here-
guys' story out.
Right here is a copy of the Constitution. Look how big of a book that is. It's just a little thing.
Condensed version. Yes, yes.
It's got everything you need.
Yeah.
It has been taken out, largely out of the schools. They don't want to educate people about it because they've changed it and rearranged it and to their own benefit.
Tom, I'm going to switch
Okay,
here. And
should I get more light?
No.
Oh.
You sit down. I'm going to switch to Chris here. Sit. I would like to hear a little bit of your story. Somebody said you resigned from your position.
From the county chief.
Do you want to go?
Let me clear some things up. I've been smeared back and forth. And if you want to, first of all, if you don't want the answer, don't ever ask me the question. Because I will tell you exactly what I feel.
It's all yours,
And
brother.
I don't care who you are, or how much you make or don't make, or how tough you think you are. If you ask me a question, I will tell you what I think. And what's been done to the Hammonds is wrong. Absolutely, totally, 100% wrong. We allowed that to happen. The people in this county, in this community, in this United States of America have allowed things to get the way they are. Through ignorance, through lack of knowledge, and through apathy. There are so many things, I'm getting signatures for the recall of Steve Grasty, the judge. There are some people that say, well, I would like to sign that, but I'm afraid they might cut out my such and such or so and so.
You want to touch
And-
on the fear of the people to stand up against him?
People,
What would be the
It's-
retaliation? What's the fear? What's the...
money. People say, well, geez, I would sign that, but my business might suffer, or this or that or whatever. I know that everybody has the ability to know the difference between right and wrong. I don't care what sex, what race, what religion you are, you know if it's right or wrong.
Yeah,
If it's wrong, you shouldn't be messing with it.
yeah.
If it's right, you should stand up for it. If it's right, that's the way you should live. You should live your life right. When someone asks you a question and you say, well, the thought processes on how to figure out if something is right or wrong should not include a dollar sign.
Yeah.
From here or Brazil or anywhere. It's either right or it's wrong. But you talk to people and say, well, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but God, I don't know if I could afford to do that. That's wrong. That's wrong. It's either right or it's wrong. If you figure, well, it's right because I make a lot of money doing that. That's wrong. And the people here have been placed in that situation. I moved here in 1978. The mill was thriving. There were lots of people in Burns and Hines. The ranchers were doing good. The railroad was still coming in. They were shipping lumber out. They were shipping cattle out. They were doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They were utilizing our forests. Now we've got billions of dollars rotten up there in the hills.
Explain to
We've
me
got-
rotting, because a lot of viewers are ignorant.
Okay, let's take a little bit. Part of what's going on is they've done a lot of road closures,
Sustainable harvesting of the timber.
sustainable harvesting of the timber. When I was first moved here, the loggers were up there and they were harvesting timber.
And replanting.
And replanting. They were brush piling, they were thinning, they were taking care of things, they were taking care of the roads.
They were
Forest
managing
Service.
the land.
They were managing the land. Then you have the Forest Service that comes in and they're managing the land by closing the roads and shutting off logging. You know, that country up there is tremendous resource, not just for the timber, but also for the recreation, also for a heating source. A lot of the people in this area, they use wood to heat. They have family gatherings where they go out on the weekend and have a great time. Everybody works, gets the wood, brings it in. Now they got all kinds of roads closed off with log decks on it that you can't cut for firewood. It's just going to rot. I've walked around up there past 2-3 foot diameter trees, hundreds of them, thousands of them, standing there dead because of the fires. When I first moved here, if you heard of a 10,000 acre fire, my God, that was a monster.
Oh, I remember, yeah.
And now they're 200,000, 400,000 acres. Why? I ask why.
Well, and the
When-
amount of wildlife that gets killed in these fires is astronomical, and the suffering that goes on with the animals, I've witnessed it myself, and so I kind of find that a personal issue myself, and it's disgusting.
It is very sad.
Yeah.
Animals don't deserve to suffer.
No.
I don't care if it's a snake that nobody likes or a coyote that nobody likes. If it needs to be killed, it needs to be killed. It doesn't need to be suffer
Right.
at all. And the animals that would get destroyed at these fires, it's horrible. But why is it that we never had huge fires? It has to do with the way they put them out. They used to put them out with bulldozers and backbones and grease and sweat and shovels and water, wet gunny sacks, whatever. If they had a fire up in the forest, the loggers stopped. They put all their resources to putting the fire out.
Yes.
The ranchers that are grazing their cattle up there, they put their resources on it. They were out there. They were putting the fires out. If it was really bad, they'd shut the mill down and people would go up to the hills and they'd put the fire out. And down through the years, the Forest Service and the B.L.M. people, they have had loss of life at some fires
Yeah.
and different places. And when they do that, sometimes it's just Murphy's Law that gets them or something like that. Then they come up with new policies to make sure that nobody ever gets hurt.
I'm going to touch on the fire that happened out here. Was that 10 years ago?
Oh, which fire?
The one where
2006 fire.
2006, 2007, 2000.
that they
12.
that they let the BLM let
Which fire?
go, and all
Which
the
one?
oh dear. Well, I don't know. I heard a
Then
story.
I will talk right now about a fire that was right out here. The BLM guy out there playing around in dry conditions, and parked his rig, locked his key in. He's got a converter's caught fire, and burnt 5,000 acres out here.
Yeah.
Burnt the BLM rig. Was he put up on charges of terrorism? No. He wasn't even reprimanded for it.
Yeah, their attitude was
Neglect.
well, shit happens.
That's absolute neglect.
I was
Yeah.
on the fire up here, and that Bixby conflicts was it? They called that fire, and friends called me up, Silver Creek Ranches, to help them with their cows. We got their cows moved to a safe zone. They started a backfire. The Forest Service did.
I think that's the story I heard about.
That caught the fire, caught me and the cows in there. I had burn marks on my shirt, was burnt. My dog's feet were burnt. My horse was burnt as we was getting those cows out of there. We was on that same fire over at Immigrant, moving 100 head of cows out. We lost one cow that fell in the creek. We couldn't get out of there in time. As that fire was roaring down on us, sounded like a jet engine coming on us fast. And we lost that cow. We couldn't get her out of the creek. We was moving those cows so fast out of there for Wayne Evans. And that was just some of the fires here. And then the fire down there that everybody's talked about that was burning down there above French Glen that
Yeah.
John Witzel caught. Those guys were starting to backfire. It's actually what they were doing. They wanted to burn French Glen out. The town of French Glen.
That's what I was told.
But the fire changed direction. The wind did, which is common at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You got a shift of weather and it started burning towards the crowd. But they never stopped burning. They just kept lighting fires, walking along there with their torches.
Who was lighting fires?
The B.L.M.
I've been told this by a lot of people in this county that happened. So,
Yeah,
Well, it did happen.
did happen.
Yeah.
It did happen.
so
I think it's kind of,
why would they want to burn out the town of French Glen?
I have no idea.
I think it has to do with apathy and an old saying that has been going around, black is green. And I've heard it a lot, and I don't like it. You know,
Black is
black
green.
is green. What that means, the more we burn, the more money we get out of it.
Vegas. Vegas.
As the fire chief in Burns, I used to take my vacation in the summertime and drive water tenders for big fires.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of a bullheaded guy that doesn't have much of reverse. And so when we would be asked to, when they'd ask me to take water into certain places, I'd always take it. I've had 4,000 gallon water trucks in there where I wouldn't have took a Jeep. But they said do it, so I'd do it. A lot of the other people would say, no, the heck with you, I'm not taking my truck in there. So when we would get caught up on the fire, they'd get demoted, they'd get sent home because they didn't really want to work. Well, and I was born and raised on a ranch where you do work. You know,
Yep.
a callus isn't something somebody gives you, it's something you earn. And so a lot of times we'd be at the fire longer, and there's several times that you'd see that the fire was just about done. It's like, wow, another day, another 2 days, we're going to be done with this. You get back to camp that night and they're demobbing people. Sending them home, sending them home, sending them home. You're going, wait, you know.
This fire's almost out. Why are you sending them home?
Yeah.
Because black is green.
And invariably, people go home, and all of a sudden, it'd blow up. And I'll be darned if they didn't start calling them back. You know, this motion right here, milking the fire,
Right.
and that's wrong. That's wrong. When they had the Egley fire up here, my back was in a brace. Mark Overspike asked me if I could ride a horse and help get their cows out up there off of Blue Creek and the Ramsey Ranch and stuff like that. I couldn't ride a horse, but I could drive a truck. So I drove a pickup pulling a horse trailer, picking up stragglers and stuff like that. And Mark would say, well, go find out where the fire's at so that we can tell what's going on. They had put the cows up at Sage Hen Spring up above Yellow Jacket Lake all night long, and the next day they were going to run them all the way down into their property on Hay Creek. We stayed there all night long. They just rode around the cows at night, kept them there. The next morning, Mark says, go find out where the fire's at so that we know which way to go. So, okay. So I go down to Yellow Jacket, nothing going on there. I go down to the next road, and here's a big, long line of forest fire rigs. And they're just sitting there, and I'm going, what's going on? What are you guys doing? Well, we're getting ready to light a backfire. What backfire? And they were getting ready. If you head towards Yellow Jacket Lake, there's a big old mountain on the right-hand side before you turn to go up the hill to Yellow Jacket. They were going to light that entire thing. That was going to be a backburn. They had it all ready. They were ready to go. I don't even think that they understood that Yellow Jacket campground was right on the other side of that mountain.
They had to have known.
They were
They
just,
had to have known.
they didn't care. I asked a guy, what's going on? And he says, well, this is what we're going to do. And I said, you can't do that. We got 350 head of cattle and about a dozen riders down here. You're going to burn people up. Where are they at? And I said, let me look on your map. He pulled a map out. He put it on the hood of his truck. And I looked at it. And I said, well, they're at Sage Hen Spring. He says, well, where's Sage Hen Spring? And I looked at the map. Yellow Jacket Lake was on there, but it didn't have a name on it. The creeks and the waterways were there, but none of them were named. I could figure out by the road where Sage Hen Spring was, but it wasn't listed.
So here's a fire crew
I said,
with
yeah,
a
why do you have a map that doesn't tell you what things are? He says, well, I'm not from around here. It doesn't matter. And I said, that's ridiculous. You cannot light this. You cannot do that. You will kill
we
me.
have cattle and men down there, and you're going to kill
Yes.
them. And he didn't care.
Well, he didn't know. He says, well, wow, we didn't know. We didn't know. You know, instead of me running up and down
Wow.
the road in a pickup pulling a horse trailer, finding out where the fire is, if they're going to be proactive on taking care of things, they should be making sure they know where the people are and the hazards and the exposures.
So a lot of the fires that have been lit in this county, and I'm going to refer back to the Hammonds at this point, a lot of the fires that have been lit in this county have been lit by B.L.M. or Forest Service and the such, and have burnt thousands and thousands and thousands of acres.
Yes, and that's in the course of putting the fire out that are caused by lightning storms or something like that.
I definitely want to refer back to the Hammonds in this case because it just shows the what they're going through and why.
Some of the stuff on the Hammonds that hasn't been mentioned is there was two B.L.M. firefighters out there lighting fires on Hammond's fence line to burn the Hammonds out. And the backfire that they burnt was to stop that that fire coming in on them, and it carried over. So whose fire was it? Was it the B.L.M. fire that burned the 137 acres, or was it the Hammonds? Question. And that. But the judge and that didn't care because they had it all set. They were sending Hammonds down there to the prison and that's Abraxas Cornell prison systems.
So the Hammonds have how many years of experience dealing with backfires and the such? I want to show the difference between the knowledge that the Hammonds have.
Gosh, 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
probably.
So you think they have a clue?
Oh yeah.
Certainly they do. And I want to say something right now. I was the Harney County Fire Chief in conjunction with being the Burns Fire Chief. The Burns Fire Chief, I ran the ambulance in the Burns Fire Department.
So coming from a fire chief.
I was the Harney County Fire Chief from 1984 until I resigned this year.
So coming from the fire chief, you're telling me that the Hammonds absolutely knew beyond a shadow of a doubt what they were doing.
Exactly. I have worked with Steve Hammond lots of times. He has always been cooperative with me. Because of the history down there, he would call and say, hey Chris, I have a field that I want to get burned off so I can get it plowed under and get it replanted, or I got to clean some ditches or something. I'd go over it with him. I'd say, okay, what do you got to make sure it don't get away from you? And he would take care of things. When are you going to light it? Let me know. Let me know when you're done. He always cooperated with all of that. He was never trying to get away with anything. You know, the man has a right to protect his property.
Damn straight he does.
And he didn't light fires on federal property. He lit fires on his own property.
To save
it
his
got
land.
off, you know, an exposure. That's a whole lot different than the B.L.M. or Forest Service going on private land without even asking and just lighting whatever they want.
And so
Why
you're
is
telling
it
me you
okay?
have approximately, 30-something years as a fire chief?
Me? Yeah.
So as 30 years as a fire chief, who would you want next to you, the Hammonds or these BLM guys lighting fires? I mean, who would you trust your life with?
Well, I'll be honest with you, it depends on which BLM people. Because there are some very knowledgeable, very smart, very professional locals here.
I've worked with a lot of fire crews myself, and
there are some of them that are really on spot and they know
Yes.
what's going on.
Yes.
There are others that shouldn't be allowed to even have a toy lighter. They should not. But the Hammonds, They were doing that to protect their land, not to destroy anything.
So they're in federal prison right now because they were protecting their lands.
Exactly.
How far does this conflict, feud, whatever you want to call it, go back with the? Give me a timeline with the Hammonds and the B.L.M. It seems.
Yeah, back in the 70s when
I
the
think
water
so,
right
yeah.
things.
The water right things.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened? What's their story?
They filed for the water rights in the state of Oregon, legalities. They filed it for it. They did everything by the book. And but then the government got all upset and wanted those water rights.
They wanted them back.
And they got some ranch lands, and they never filed for those water rights. Well, like any entrepreneur, hey, there's water rights there that can be used to water my cows.
Mm-hmm.
So they filed on them, but then the government, through the Refuge, and that got all pissed off and wanted their water rights back that they never filed on. They let go.
Yeah.
They let them go.
They let them go.
If you have a water right, or if you have a right, you have to claim it.
Yep.
You have to use it, and you have to defend it
And maintain it.
and maintain it.
So the
Fish
feud.
and Wildlife had not been using the water. So what you do is you prove non-use, which is exactly what the Hammonds did. They went down and they said, okay, these waters aren't being used. They were found in non-use, so they applied for the water rights and they got them. And then all of a sudden, oh wait, we want them back. Even though they weren't going to do anything with them, they wanted them back. And then started the pushing and shoving.
So it's kind of been a pissing contest ever since.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
Yes, it has. And it's just one thing after another after another.
The thing you got to remember about the Hammond's Ranch, I showed you how it lay between the Steens Mountain and the Mulhere Refuge. And that was a complete corridor to the Steen Mountains. And the government wants that land.
Why?
Period. To have that land from the refuge to the Steens Mountain monument, or whatever the bullshit name they want, excuse my language, but BS name they want to give it. They want that land. That's the only tract of land that lays between there. And they want to own that all the way to the Steen Mountains. And they don't want cows on that land. So they're willing to steal from people to get that land. Imprison people, as we see.
You're going to be talking to thousands of people. My videos look like they're doing pretty good. Is there anything that you want to say to the Hammond family, the Bundy family, the LaVoy family, Finicum family?
I'll tell you what, the Hammond family has been mistreated. They have been drugged through the dirt. They need to be left alone. They need to be able to go back and live their lives and let the land prosper and take care of their families. They need to not be harassed anymore. The Bundy families, the same thing. They aren't bad people. They're not bad people at all. Finicums, what a horrible, horrible tragedy for that man to be murdered. Yes, I talked to him. Yes, I've shook his hand. Yes, I've shook his wife's hand. Yes, I've hugged his wife. What wonderful, wonderful people. Kind and gentle people. If I still had a grandpa alive, I would want it to be LaVoy Finicum. What a wonderful guy. Calm, quiet-spoken. I mean, the only way you can find out these things is to go right to the person. And that's exactly how I got involved to begin with. I wanted to know what was going on in my community. I went and I shook their hands. I looked them in the eye. I asked them questions. I listened to what they had to say. I looked them in the eye. You can communicate with people that way. It doesn't have to be screaming and yelling, and it doesn't have to be looking at some phony post on Facebook how you base your decision on someone. It's a horrible, horrible way to mistreat good people. Good people. It's just, we have to stand up. We have to stand up. If we let things keep going the way they are, our grandkids, our great-great-grandkids aren't even going to be able to understand how we grew up. because they're going to be in an entire different world. Freedom is not going to mean the same to these kids 100 years from now than it does now, because freedoms are something that are constantly being taken away from us. And the freedoms, it was written about in the Constitution on how to maintain them and how to keep them. There were checks and balances in there that people should have been following. It's a bad thing that nowadays people are so busy just keeping their lives going. Well, they don't have a chance to pay attention about this and that. As long as they leave me alone, it won't bother me.
Complacency.
Yeah, that's a sad, sad, evil thing. People need to pay attention. Your rights. Your rights, you have to own them. You have to defend them. You have to use them. The same as a water right. The right to free speech. The way that Grasty was telling us we couldn't have a public meeting when Hammond Bundy wanted to lay out his exit strategy to leave Harney County, and we were denied the use of public buildings
By the local judge.
by Judge Grasty. The man that told me, I'm the one that uncovered some FBI guys here in town. And I'm the one that Steve Grasty pointed his finger in my face in his office, says, you have no right to follow anybody in our town. You have no right to ask anybody any questions in our town. And it's none of your damn business what goes on at the armory. For somebody to tell me that claims that he's a person of authority, the only reason that man ever said those words to me is because the night before I had got a microphone and I told people about exposing the FBI, and he caught flack on it. And people listened to me. And he wanted me out of the equation. There were 4 police officers close by, so that if I reached across to give him a free nap or just a little slap across the face, that they could have thrown me in jail and got me out of the equation. He told me that at one point in my life I might have been a dangerous man, but that I'm not anymore. He said, you've got nothing. Your perception is all wrong. You don't understand what's going on. You're an old man. You couldn't hurt anybody. You need to go home and stay at home and let us take care of these kinds of things. He never had enough hair on his butt in his entire life to talk to me like that without having his armed protection right there. I'll tell you that. I just had a shoulder replaced and I could whoop him with one hand.
So he needs 4 armed guys to protect him against the locals, because the locals are not real happy with him right now.
Yeah. There's a reason he wears a yellow shirt.
Oh, sorry.
I told him the day that I resigned,
You want to touch on why you resigned?
because he spoke to me like that, because he denied. I'm the one that called the fairgrounds. I talked to the groundskeeper. I said, Jesse, how do I go about getting the all-purpose building? He says, well, I've got the calendar here. He says, I write your name on it, and you give me a check for $100, and no big deal. I said, do you need me to bring the check right now? And he said, no, bring it a half hour early. I said, okay, and we'll find out what I need to do to clean it up and everything. He said, yep, no problem. And so the next day, Grasty said, no, absolutely not. Can't have the fairgrounds for anything having to do with those terrorists out there, the protesters, the Bundys. We're not going to have county buildings used, any discussion for that. That week, he had the all-purpose building, and that's the only thing they talked about. And there must have been 50 police officers there, all kinds of national media. We couldn't have a meeting there, but he could. We couldn't discuss anything having to do with Hammond, Bundy, or the Refuge, and that's the only thing he talked about. There's a little difference in the standards there, I believe. And so he was telling me those things after I spoke out at the high school and told him about the FBI. And he told me I couldn't have couldn't have a meeting in any of the county buildings. I said, so you're going to take away our First Amendment? He says, no. You have the right to assemble, just not in any county property. How about you go out in a field somewhere or in somebody's barn? And at that time, it was well below freezing. And he thought, he had a big smirk. He thought that was pretty funny. I'm not keeping you from assembling. You're just not going to be in any county buildings. Like as if he'd paid for them himself. That's wrong. That's censorship. Later on, they had a meeting at the senior center, and they were going to limit it to 150 people. And they were going to give out tickets. And they were not going to allow anybody from outside of Harney County to be at that public meeting. He actually called me and said, hey, the Committee of Safety, we have 6 tickets reserved for you guys. Pick them up at the door. That's not how you have public meetings. That's not how you do that.
What can we do?
Well, if you're a registered voter in Harney County, good for you. Sign the recall petition. If you're not a registered voter in Harney County and you live in Harney County, go get yourself registered to vote, because it's very, very important this year.
I would say this is a huge
The
year.
county commission's positions are up. The sheriff's position is up. The judge position is up. We need to flush that mess and pour a little Clorox in there and disinfect it and put some real people in there. We need to put some people with backbones. We need to put some people with common sense
Constitutional knowledge.
and constitutional knowledge. We need to have some people that can tell the difference between right and wrong. That's what we can do. And we need to stand up for our rights. We need to help our neighbors, not slice their throats.
Yeah, I'm behind you on that one. We are.
It only took a week after the last 4 people left the refuge. It only took them 1 week to take the concrete barricades and the chain link fence down around Harney County courthouse and the jail. Why is that? When the danger, those 4 dangerous people were gone, why did it take a week for that danger to dissipate in Harney County, in town?
Would you say there was any danger at all in town?
No.
Absolutely not. And I do want to tell you a story. I cannot mention a name, but I can tell you that a person that I talked to that worked at the Forest Service was being lied to the point of tears. I asked this person, how are you doing through all of this? She told me, I don't like to go home a different way every time. I don't like to have an armed guard go with me when I go to the Forest Service so that I can do virtual work at my home. If we go, we have to have an armed guard, and there's black SUVs that follows us. And I said, guess what? Those are the FBI. I've already proven that. She says, and those people out there at the refuge are crazy. They're dangerous. They're not. Go visit them. Go talk to them. Go look them in the eye. Make up your own mind. There is no danger there. Those people didn't come here with any intention of harming anyone. They have not threatened anyone. She said, but you don't know. You don't know. You think you know, but you don't know. And I said, what is it that I don't know? And she started to tear up. And she said, Ryan Payne and Hammond Bundy had a big argument. Ryan Payne is now split off by himself, and he's bringing thousands of people in here. And she started bawling, and she said, lots of people are going to die. She started crying.
This is what the FBI are telling her?
That's what her Forest Service bosses were telling her. Where they got their information, I don't know. But I'd like to line them up and start knocking them down. Because you can't do that to your own employees. Keep your own employees
Fear
in
tactic.
total fear.
Fear tactics.
Is it right or is it wrong? There's no decision there. It's wrong. To do that is wrong. There was a gag order. None of the Forest Service B.L.M. employees could go to any of the public meetings. They couldn't say anything. They couldn't do anything. Where did their rights go?
So did you tell her that you had met the people?
I got on my phone and I called Hammond Bundy. And I said, Hammond, this is what was just told to me. And he said, you've got to be kidding. Ryan Payne's been by my side the whole time. He's never left, and he's not about to go anywhere. He said, that is just horrible to be telling those people those stories. But that's just one example. And that is absolutely 100% true. And I don't care who it is. Anybody wants to tell me it's not true, come talk to me. We will discuss it. Show me how it's not true. Because it's true.
Right.
And it's wrong. It's wrong to do. You shouldn't be following people around and intimidating people and scaring them.
Fear tactics.
Fear tactics. You know, I was coming back last week. Had a black SUV. I've been out to the Narrows at the cafe. On the way back, here's a black SUV with government plates, 2 antennas on it. Come up from nowhere all of a sudden, right on my butt. I'm on 205. So I slowed down. I'd been going about 65, which was above the speed limit. I slowed down to 55, and they would get right up on my tail. I was pulling a trailer, and they'd get to where I couldn't see their headlights, just the 2 antennas.
That close.
And then they'd back off, and then they'd come up, and then they'd back off, and they'd come up. Okay? Kind of signifies impatience, like maybe you'd like to go around. There's plenty of road. You got turn signals on that vehicle once you use them. So I slowed down to make it a little easier for them. I slowed down to 50. They stayed there, same thing. So I thought they must want to enjoy their day. So I set my cruise control at 42 miles per hour. And I drove all the way to Burns. And when I got to Hotchkiss Lane, they were up there to where I couldn't see their headlights, so I thought they must be able to see my turn signals, and I turned my signals on, and I turned. And they kind of got off the road a little bit to get around me. And I turned down Hotchkiss Lane, and then I backed back onto the road, and I had to go way above the speed limit to catch back up to them. And they'd been going 42 mile an hour without any problem at all. I followed them all the way into town, and they turned on Diamond Street, went down 3 blocks and turned right. I went down 4 blocks and turned right. They were in the right turn lane on Egan and Monroe. I pulled up alongside of them. I waved. I seen the guy's baseball cap in there, the blacked out windows. I waved. I smiled. I blew kisses. That's how you tell people that you're horribly intimidated by their antics.
I'm not easily intimidated, so yeah, I get it.
I don't get intimidated, I just get pissed. I don't have a reverse. And, you know, to play games like that on the highway, why? What does that do? Does that make somebody feel big and strong? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely, totally ridiculous. And if they want to play games, we can play games. But if you want to play hardball with this old man, you best go buy a new mitt.
Our tax dollars at work, following you.
Yeah. Well, if I can drive at 30 miles an hour next time, that'll keep them out of somebody else's hair a lot longer.
Yeah.
There's just no reason for that. There's no reason for that. When we were out there yesterday, helping get some of the vehicles out of there, the people that were out there were very professional. They were accommodating. They were kind. They were respectful. I didn't catch any disrespect from anybody that I talked to. There's no reason that
people that were out there yesterday were fishing game.
Yeah.
Right.
Supposedly fishing game.
Yeah,
That's what their
supposedly.
patches.
I didn't see any name tags. They were
No.
all covered, and they were very heavily armed. What did you think of that? Wise fishing game got to have. I mean, how many rounds did they have on them and their vests and stuff? Would you
They
say?
had multiple clips for their pistols and
10, 15, 20
I
round
asked-
clips. What did you see?
Well, their clips probably each one of them have at least 10 rounds in
Yeah.
them for their pistols, and I'd see 6-8 clips per person, you know, and that's just what you could see. You know, I asked one of the guys, wow,
And so
how
what
much
do
does all that stuff weigh? And he said, about 100 pounds of extras.
So they had
Here
probably
they were
60 rounds on each person.
Yeah.
And the people that were out there yesterday, including myself, what would you say the average age was of us out there yesterday?
The average age?
Yeah.
Well, I make it go up a little ways, but
I'd
probably
say-
40.
No, the young
Oh.
pup was me about 57.
I would say the average age would about 57.
Yeah,
Yeah.
50, yeah. I was trying to be nice. 'cause
I was that
I'm
we are being
63.
nice. 57 is being nice. So they got 60 rounds of ammo each for us out there, us old farts out there.
But what you seen up top was nothing. You should have got down below. They were, what, 70 guys down there running around?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yesterday?
I only saw about 5 or 6.
Oh, down there by where we came in from the backside had 6 guys down on the backside, same as up top at the gate. And then you come through the compound where the cookhouse was. There was 5 or 6 guys there. You come on down by where the the building they built on top of artifacts and destroyed artifacts. There was about 30 or 40 guys there, and then there was guys over there helping Mrs. Bundy, and then there was about 4 or 5 guys. What got me is there you got a woman loading up her vehicles, and
Yeah.
to get her stuff out, and there's grown men, United States employees, standing there with their arms crossed, watching a woman picking up heavy stuff. My God, you animals, have some manners. Help the lady out.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So-
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yesterday, I'd say we were outnumbered 10 to 1,
Oh, a little bit more than that, yeah. Yeah,
and they all had about 60 rounds each on them.
yeah.
Yeah,
We
we're
all
pretty.
probably
I guess.
had a pocket knife in our pocket.
Yeah. I was armed myself. I had that pocket knife.
Oh,
I had my pocket knife. Nah. But you know, it was just, there was an overkill. United States people, wake up. Y'all come to, I've heard this so many times. Oh my God, the Bundys is armed.
I'm going to
And then
maintain my weapon.
Then I bring up the point about the Bundys. I said, yeah, the Bundys had some arms there. But so did the occupiers of our courthouse, the occupiers of the, down here at the airport, they were all armed. Oh, and everybody goes, oh, they're cops. They're allowed to pack arms. Why does a cop is allowed to pack arms and the civilians, we're not allowed to protect ourselves?
Although in the Constitution it says
Yeah.
you have the right to bear arms.
Bear arms. And you know, people, they're out to get your Second Amendment rights. Once they get the Second Amendment rights taken care of, look out number 1, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. And they will take that away. You've already got college university kids, educated kids, and down in Missouri, protested that we have no freedom of right, that they should take our freedom of speech away. We should not have freedom of speech. These are college educated by these stupid college professors that think they're so intelligent, that's tenured, that don't even show up to work. God, I want one of those paychecks where I receive $100,000 a year and don't go to work. That's teaching these so-called idiot puppets, and that they walk around thinking they're smarter than everybody else because they got a college certificate. Sorry, people. The First Amendment rights is to protect you so you can make stupid statements like you do, college kids. Second Amendment right is to protect that First Amendment right so you can look like a stupid moron by your college-educated professors. That, oh my God, Chicago, we got a terrorist, a true terrorist, that has destroyed and bombed cop shops named Biller and Bernadette Bourne or whatever her dumbass name is. Excuse my language. That's teaching our kids. You have Barack Hussein Obama that has a White House full of Muslim Brotherhood, which is classified as a terrorist organization, in our White House, in our cabinet, in the cabinet of his so-called dictatorship. You got Loretta Lynch giving all police rights to the UN. All city police rights have been given to the UN, so the UN can come in on any police actions in the United States. You got Loretta Lynch sitting there, or Justice, whatever her title is over there, telling people, if you make any statements against the Muslim people, oh my God, you are a felon.
But we can't make any derogatory statements against our own government, and we're considered terrorists.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Ranchers and farmers and,
Yep.
and retired law enforcement such as myself, yeah, we're terrorists. Yeah.
But these same Muslims that they talk about are raping and plundering Europe, and now they're raping and plundering the United States. There's terrorist training camps in the United States that the United States lets happen. Chinese military buildup across the border in Mexico. We got our illegals coming in all the time wanting our welfare system to deplete our treasury.
So the amount of law enforcement, military, Humvees, all the
MPRs, MRPs.
what did you see in Burns, and what would you say this is Agenda 21 training ground here?
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna live on the dangerous side and here talk about Agenda 21 for just a second. Would you say that Burns was the perfect scenario playground for that?
Well, there was a safe place for them to play because there was no danger.
Right. There was no danger.
No,
No.
there was no danger.
But they did, you got to look at Burns, Oregon. Burns, Oregon has 4 roads to shut off. The majority of the travel. You can take over Burns, Oregon in a heartbeat
North, south,
and
east, and
control
west.
a small population of people with the vast majority of the land.
The airport?
The airport
You
is
want
nothing.
to talk about the airport and all the vehicles that were out there for a second?
With that one day we had, 20 MRPs out there.
Yeah.
You had armored personnel vehicles out there. You had tents. You had communication,
Huge.
traction systems out there.
Yeah.
And that you had Blackhawks out there. You had an Apache come in out there. Why?
For the small, what's the population in Burns?
3,500.
Yeah, and Burns is like 3,500, another 2,000 or so are in Hines.
Yeah.
And the rest of that 7,500 people are scattered out over 10,500 square miles.
So the population of this county,
It's about 7,500.
and how many law enforcement military do you think were here at the time?
800.
Yeah, I don't know.
We had
It was a
They were
lot.
everywhere. You
Yeah.
couldn't count them because they're everywhere.
I
you
drove
went.
through town today and didn't see one.
there's 10 state coppers now here in town.
We didn't see one
Yeah. You see them all the time at nights.
at night.
Yeah.
So with a population of how many for Burns, Harney County? What's the population of Harney County?
7,500.
7,500.
You had 10% cops. 10% cop for 75.
Probably, yeah.
That's a good average estimate.
They were booking motels up through the end of March.
Yeah.
They didn't stay at our motel.
Oh no, they had your motels rounded.
Oh, they did, but they didn't stay there. We
No.
were very low budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were very low budget. I'm well over an hour here. I don't even know if this is going to load or not. Is there anything that you would like to say? I know you guys have said a lot, but if you died tomorrow, what would you want to say?
Let's have freedom for our children, freedom for our grandchildren. Let's make the United States back the country it should be, and get rid of this corporate America crap, and get back to one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For all.
For
God
all.
bless America.
Yes.
For all.
Yeah.
And there is no racial boundaries, no gender boundaries.
No.
I've never met anybody in town that I've even thought was racist or sexist. I haven't. And I'm kind of a strong woman, so I get that sometimes. But, I haven't ran across anybody.
No.
Not one person. So, I mean, if they're out there, point them out. I'll go talk to them.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, it's like our house here. And my great-great-grandmother was black. And And my great-great-grandfather was a Swedish man with a big, huge, long white beard, and this little tiny little black woman beside him. And I tell you what, if you made a comment about that little woman, you better get running because you got a short little start and he'd kill you. Because he defended that woman and she defended him. I remember before she passed on, you cut down Granddad.
Oh.
You better look out because she was going to make a comment to you and it wasn't going to be pretty. Now, we had a black gentleman, Lee Rice, that was staying here. Lee Rice is a good friend of ours. And he stayed here at the house and we did a video with him, and my son, he was like an uncle to my son and like a brother to me. You know, he's a good man. We had no, you know, there's no racial here. We're all one person. We're all one person in one cause.
It's America.
And that's the corruption. Harney County Courthouse is so full of corruption. There's been drugs taken out of lockup, and sold where? On our street corner to our kids, maintaining a drug habit, from cocaine to marijuana.
I've noticed a drug issue in
big
this
time.
town.
Big time. Big time. And we got this prison here, Abrex Prison, Geo World Prison, that showed up here. And with that came the trash associated with those kids.
Is
Their parents.
that a private?
Private facility. Actually, if you stop and look at that private facility, yeah, they make money off it. You stop and look at the Abrex Geo World Cornell prison system, which is all one. The Hammonds are now sitting in one of them down in California. But my interest is, has there been any these judges and these defense attorneys and these counties that send men and children to these prisons, do they get compensated from the prison systems? And that's my question. I think there is a compensation of some type of gift, award, benefit, or something to all these quote-unquote judges and lawyers that send these kids and these adults to these federal prisons. Let's call it what it is. They're not prisons. They are slave labor camps. They get compensated from the government. They get compensated from the IKEA. Down in Southern California is a prison that the Hammonds was sent to. A Kia company gives them royalties to that prison agency. Then they charge the prisoners $36 a day to be in that prison. They're forced there, but now they got to pay $36 a day for every day that they're in that prison. So these prison companies are making millions. Geo World is also involved in some pedophilia scandals in Pennsylvania. There's some talk of Texas, some pedophilia scandals. But the worst thing is they all go back to the Freemasoners and the Masons. It all goes right there. It's a tie. You look it up, you study it yourself, and you'll find that connection, that tie.
If you Google the Graspy's name, he's on the Masons here in town.
Yes.
He's
Yes. And if you, I tell you what, for you people that like to study, look up Abrex. Look up the meaning of Abrex. ABRASXAS. You'll find it's a demon in mythology. And the Abrex goes back to the Freemasons and the Mason Brotherhood. Harney County Courthouse has a Masonic owl sitting on the front. Used to have the golden eagles on there. But when did they remove those golden eagles?
I don't know.
And then they put the owl. The owl of the Masonic temple. The owl is a guardian over the underworld. And then you look at there's so many parables that goes into this, but it all comes back to one thing.
so the judge in the town is a Mason,
Yes.
and the privately owned prison that's here is also associated with the Masons.
Masonry.
And
also
the
we have
Bundys are now housed in a prison that is associated.
The Hammonds are, yes.
The Hammonds.
Yes.
Oh.
And also you got the Mulhare Caves, which is, you got the entry of Mulhare Caves is the Masons sign.
And that's
on
right here in
there.
Harney County.
And I've been down in there, and you got a grandstand set up, and you got the altar. And has there been any sacrifices that are involved in human sacrifices? Good question. And there's some Illuminati, scary stuff here. And there's reasons people want to protect this country. These UN nations and all these people. there's reasons they want to protect it.
So the connection to all of this in Harney County runs very
We're
deep.
very deep, very deep.
Way deeper
Very,
than
very deep.
Ever.
And
anybody
so
had any
coming
idea about.
so coming out public like this, do you fear any backlash?
Bring it on.
Bring it on. I've lived a good life. I'll die for the freedom of my children, my grandchildren. And that, at one point, you might push me to a fight. But right now, I'm unarmed. And that, and you want to debate me, debate me. And as far as all you women in Burns that has these love affairs and love to send me love letters, not interested, sorry. That takes care of all my critics that criticizes me all the time.
Okay. Because you're single.
I think they want more of a love affair that their husband's not giving them.
Oh.
It's called
oh.
1-800-Viagra, ladies.
Oh, you're talking the married ladies in town. Oh dear. Oh,
you Chris
whole
know
nother
the ones
scandal.
I'm talking about. They get pretty.
Oh.
They get pretty rude on their love affairs. They talk when they start sending you love notes. They start testing you out pretty good.
Oh
And I just
dear.
call them love notes instead of getting pissed off about it. I'm just laughing at
Oh.
love notes.
Yeah.
You gotta carry a sense of humor.
Oh,
If you
you
don't
have
have a sense
to.
of humor, this
You-
should drive you up a wall.
You have to. Well, I'm at 1 hour and 15 minutes here, so we're going to go ahead and close up.
I want you to think of something.
Okay.
In this Constitution, the Second Amendment doesn't mean you're supposed to run around in a sleeveless shirt. The right to bear arms means that you can protect yourself.
From foreign and domestic enemies.
Exactly. It doesn't mean bear arms,
Give me
a sleeveless shirt.
Catch my son. Hunter, tell him about LaVoy.
No.
Don't be shy.
You can't.
You Hunter, just tell him what your impression. This is a young man.
I won't put you on camera. Just go ahead.
This is a young man that met LaVoy. And tell him what you thought of LaVoy.
No,
This
I
is
thought
for
he
his-
was a wonderful gentleman. Soft-spoken, kind-hearted.
Soft-spoken, kind-hearted.
Any kind of grandfather you'd ever want to have.
Exactly.
Grandfather.
Yep.
And what did he tell you?
Yeah, he tried to set me up with one of his daughters.
LaVoy was playing matchmaker to one of his daughters, so
My dad was trying to matchmake me all.
Oh, well, God
"See,
bless
Hunter, this
parents."
is just how dads are.
that's just how we are. That's just how parents are. You know, you see a good girl and you're like, oh, you're perfect for my son. Yeah, I understand. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close up
Okay.
now because we're at 1 hour and 20 minutes here, and I want to thank you so much for allowing me into your home and for you coming out and talking to me and everything, and a good cup of coffee. Thank you. So this is Rocky Hall, Lassen County Oath Keepers, Susanville, California, signing out. Have a good night. Burns, Oregon, Harney County.